You are listening to the 5am podcast, and today is your day. Welcome to the 5am podcast, where we bring you insightful conversations with influencers and thought leaders who are making headway and some waves in their callings and industries. Well, today we are honored to have with us creator Brad Elder. Brad is a former CEO and practicing attorney in the great state of Texas, who, after nearly 20 years of guiding companies and clients, discovered a new passion, that of storytelling. During the pandemic, Brad traded boardrooms for paintbrushes, turned mistakes into waves of inspiration, and ultimately channeled the creativity into his debut thriller, Recoil of Justice. Join us as Brad takes us from the courtroom to the canvas and then to the page to reveal how anyone can embrace their inner artist and author. Now, before we roll that intro, a warm welcome to you as you listen and watch. We do appreciate you joining us. Please consider sharing this with 3 of your friends. I know that many are going to enjoy this conversation today. And a big thanks to those who've given us a 5-star review on their favorite podcast player. And of course, thanks to those who've ventured over to buymeacoffee.com/5am podcast and bought us a few cups of coffee this week and last. We do appreciate all levels of support. Now, let's roll that intro. Brad Elder, welcome to the 5am podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yes, I'm excited about this conversation. It's always interesting, the people that I've talked to who are guests on 5am podcast, and something has come up in their life and it's caused them maybe to reevaluate or to look in a different direction. And growing up on a farm, we had horses, and one of the things we heard about was those blinders, and it was to keep that horse from being distracted. And of course, as a young boy, man, I was looking for every shiny object. It didn't have to go off into my peripheral vision. I was like, where's that next shiny object? But I got to ask you, what was the precise moment you realized you wanted to do something different outside of the boardroom? And then how did that feel to change directions?
Yeah, that's a good question. Mine came from something it was a terrible scenario. We were involved in a lawsuit with my company I was not the lawyer on. I was actually, unfortunately, the defendant on, my company and I and a few of us. And it had been going on for a very long time. We had been brought into suit by one of really the largest company in our and due to some hiring practices that, we hired a lot of their employees and they didn't like that. Basically, is what it boiled down to. And it had gone on for, at this point, it was about 2.5 years. And we had spent a tremendous amount of money in legal fees. And it was finally about to be over. We're finally going to get our day in trial and be able to tell our side of the story. And then 2 days before trial started, tragedy struck the judge's family. Fortunately, that all worked out just, fine. And the grandson recovered great. But that's kind of an aside. But the trial had to be postponed, and I felt completely out of control of everything going on in my life. It's cost us, a couple $1 million in legal fees. This had been just a massive distraction to us. And we were a growing company trying to set our own culture. And then it got delayed, and 6 months doesn't sound like much to us, but when it's been going on that long, to delay another 6 months, I felt completely out of control. And I just thought, well, I've got 3 weeks off, because that's how long the trial was supposed to, I say off, that I don't have anything planned.
Right.
I'm going to figure something out. I'm going to do something where I'm in complete control of it. And the outcome really doesn't matter. It's just a project I want to take on. I never thought of myself as a creative person. I took an art class in high school and drew a couple of pictures I thought were okay, but for the most part, I was pretty bad at it. I didn't get that gene. A couple of my brothers are very good at it. I was not. At least I didn't know it at the time, but I don't care. I'm going to be in complete control of this, and I'm not a controlling person at all. But for some reason, my life felt like it was totally out of control. So I went to the paint store and bought some canvas and paints and painted a few pictures, and they were god-awful, were bad. But I had, one time I was trying to paint something, I can't remember what it was now, and I did a brush stroke, and I'm like, oh gosh, that looks just like a wave. And so I just kind of built from there. And by those mistakes, I kind of learned something. I just kept trying. I was willing
Right.
to figure out if I could do this or not.
Yeah.
And that got built into a few pictures, that my wife allows me to hang on the wall in my office.
Gotcha.
I know when they're okay, they're office hanging worthy. There's none out in the living room. Just
Yeah.
let's
Right.
let's get that out there. I'm not that good, but it sparked this creative juice in me, I guess. And you fast
Yeah.
forward a few years, and I was reading a book by Jack Carr, Red Sky Morning. I love Jack Carr books, and something occurred to me that I think I can do this, and I think I want to try this. And so once I finished Jack's book, I opened up my computer, and I kind of had a basic idea
Yeah.
for a plot, and I just started writing and wrote, probably 4 chapters or so over maybe a month span or so. And kind of thought, I don't know if I'm capable of doing this. I don't know if this is good. It sounds good to me,
Right.
but I'm not, it's me. So I reached out to one of my friends who's a writing professor at a university, and sent it to him. He was very encouraging, and that kind of gave me kind of the green light, I guess you would say,
Hmm.
to see it through. So I just kept writing, and I couldn't wait to get up in the morning and open my computer and start writing again. So it gave me a lot of purpose. It gave me a lot of again, where I was in control of it. It fails, but it's my fault. If it
Right.
succeeds, it succeeds. And that's not all on me. Yeah, I had great people working with me, but if I failed, I failed, and it was all on me. So, and I was willing to find out. And I think
Yeah.
that's a big, I'm not going to say driver. It's something that holds people back a lot. Is,
Right.
are you willing to find out if you're going to
Mm.
fail, and are you willing to find out if you can succeed?
Right. And there's a lot of great topics where we could go just from this initial part of our conversation. And one of the things that I think really impacts people is I've got this idea, I've got started, but now how do I keep going? And was there some things that you encountered that they're either the time vampires or the time thieves? Because they have two different jobs. One steals
Right.
our time, and one kind of vacuums it out of what we thought we had. How did you persist in getting past, let's say, chapter 4 and further into the book?
Well, I don't have a magical,
Yeah.
wand here to say I just did this. Luckily for me, the motivation was still there.
Mm.
Was had never really left me. I did run into a few writer's blocks, as you would say, and I just
Yeah.
wasn't sure where the story was going to go. Uh, I am not. I found out. I didn't even realize when I started this that there's kind of two kind of writers. There's somebody who outlines and somebody who just sits down and
Mm.
starts writing. I don't think I'm creative enough to sit down and write out an outline of a book and
Gotcha.
think it all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
I find I'm more creative when I'm being creative. So I kind of wanted to find out what was going to happen next too, kind of like a
Right.
reader who's hopefully, wants to buy the book and keep
Yes.
turning pages. I too wanted to find out what was
Right.
going on. So I didn't even know how the book was going to end until I wrote it.
Right. Yeah.
So there were I had the ability to want to know what's going to happen next too, and there's only one way to find that out, and that's to sit down and keep writing.
Right. So the other thing that struck me about what we were chatting about in your response was a team around you and finding the right people to help you. Can you talk a little bit about the people that helped you along the way and maybe some new relationships that came out of the book?
Yeah, for sure. I am self-publishing,
Hmm.
which it's far more common than it used to be. When you
Yeah.
used to hear about self-publishing, I always think you're taking your Canon printer and printing it
Right.
out and selling it out of the trunk of your car.
That's right.
It's a totally different world than that. That said, I didn't have a publishing company out there who I would call and say, okay, who's my editor on this? Who's my
Uh-huh.
marketing person? I had to go find those people. Luckily, there's a lot of resources out there where freelancers do. Um, or you can go in and hire freelancers. You can, interview them. You can see their work and things they've done. And my editor that I'd hired, a developmental editor, he made me into a much better writer. I mean,
Hmm.
it really truly educated me on things to stay away from pitfalls,
Right.
the way to think about this, the way to craft a novel. And he changed my book. I probably had to take out 10,000 words on his suggestions. I
Wow.
didn't have to, but I felt moved to do that because I
Right.
trusted him. Um, and had to add back in, that much or more, and it made it a much better book. So I'll never forget, what he taught me, and I will use
Hmm.
him again on my next book. I found two great marketing people from there, and when you find the right person, they're so invested in your book as well, and it
Hmm.
it feels like a real team effort. And I find that to be amazing that they're doing this for, they get paid, right?
Yes, right.
And they're doing this to make a living, but to invest themselves in something that they're putting their hard-earned
Yeah.
work into and time into, it's very endearing, and it makes you want to use them
Hmm.
again, and you build this longer relationship than what
Right.
was just somebody I hired to look through a book.
Right. And it makes so much sense. Our conversations make me think of John Bond, who's a guest that has been on 5 a.m. podcast, who does consult and help authors get from concept to page to
Right.
published. And I can see that finding the team is so critical. And it almost sounds to me like now because you have this team in place, now you could write another book.
Hmm. That's right.
Yeah. And so let's talk just briefly about your book. It's entitled Recoil of Justice, which sounds great. We've talked about firearms on this show a little bit with Nate Green and some others. And can you give us maybe the premise of the book?
Sure. Absolutely. The story is the protagonist is Ryan Wolf. He is a lawyer in Houston. Um, and he basically takes on a case. And this is not a legal thriller. I would say I call it a legal
Oh,
thriller light.
okay.
I'm not John Grisham. I don't know that I'm a good enough lawyer, although I am a lawyer. I'm not a good enough lawyer, really. I don't think to write to know the ins and outs like
Hmm.
he does to write it. And I never really wanted to write a legal thriller. I always kind of, when I read the Baldaccis and the Brad Thors of the world and the Jack
Hmm.
Cars, I do picture myself as the protagonist, the tough guy, the CIA spy or the black ops operator or what have you. But I always did I wanted to write an action thriller.
Mm.
But when would read those books, I would always ask, what if a normal person, a normal everyday person was thrust into a situation like this? How would they, without the military experience,
Right.
without the black ops experience, without the CIA experience or FBI experience, how would we,
Yeah.
as normal human being, everyday human beings, how would we react?
Yeah.
And I wanted to flesh that out through a story. And so Brian just happens to be a lawyer, although there is a case at the center of the book, especially in part one. He basically takes on a case, and then throughout this the first part of the book, he's fleshing out this case. He's trying this case, and he I don't want to do too many spoiler
Sure.
alerts,
No.
but it gets to a point to where once he's made a move where he doesn't have any legal recourse, the real sinister plot is revealed to him, and people are in true danger. And now what is he going to do? So
Wow.
this is kind of like their justice was served, but there's a recoil to that justice because now your hands are tied.
Mm.
And he has to really step outside of his comfort zone and ask how far will he go to
Wow.
protect those who are innocent. And
Wow.
one overarching theme is he blames himself for this. And
Right.
I've kind of had that in my life too. I'll blame myself for a little bit
Mm.
too many
Mhm.
things. And I wanted to weave those parts of my own life into the story. And
Oh,
he
that's
blames
good.
himself for the situation that he's in. And unfortunately, the other person is in. And he
Right.
really has to find out as a man how far are you willing to go
Right.
to
Wow.
protect those who are truly innocent in this.
Well, that sounds intriguing. And so, audience, I'll ask you put something in the comments. And I know something that Brad just brought up, right? That retrospective look of sometimes we think of only the negatives and the pitfalls that we encountered instead of the really good things that we've done. And that's part of the human condition, I'm sure. But audience, we'd love to hear from you in the comments. And one of the things that I do want to ask you about, Brad, is how did you balance your role as your kind of your 9 to 5, or maybe your longer hours than that, your role as a CEO or an attorney, a painter, an author? How did you maybe compartmentalize or schedule things so that you could continue developing Recoil of Justice?
Yeah, that's a good question. Probably in a better situation than a lot of I can't say that. My guess is I'm in a better
Right?
situation than a lot of people who want to write a book because we do have to make a living, right? And a lot of people are 9 to 5ers and
Yeah.
they have to make ends meet.
Yeah.
I it's and I do as well, but I've been very lucky in that I have an incredible team at my company, and
Mm.
I still do own I still am the CEO of the company, but I have such an incredible team that I don't get into the weeds nearly as much as I used
Gotcha.
to. So
Yeah.
my time, I had a lot more spare time than what a lot of people do have.
Gotcha.
Now that's not to say that I work on something for my company every single day,
Right.
but luckily it's not a 6, 8, 9, 10 hour a
Right.
day, So when I do focus on my company, I hit it hard and heavy, and then I can take a few days
Right.
and and refocus. And that really kind of taking those little breaks from each made
Yeah.
me look forward to starting it again.
Mm.
When I've been
Mm-hmm.
away from the operation of the company for a few days, then I can and I
Yeah.
do what writing or whatever work I need to do on my book, then I'm excited to get back and delve into things with my company again because I've had those few days off. I'm not a big grinder. I couldn't sit behind a desk and do the same thing for 40 years. So those little breaks really made me better at
Mm-hmm.
what I do, I think, whether it be running the
Right.
company or writing.
Yeah, well, this definitely speaks to business leadership and knowing the team and the people around you makes me want to ask you then in what ways did your business leadership experience maybe impact or inform your character development or the plot structure of this book?
That I've never really considered that angle. But
Mm,
I've always been a big believer that people don't work for companies, people work for people. And Ryan is the same way in his approach with some of his allies in the book and with some of the principals of the law firm
mm,
that he works
mm-hmm.
for. There's a real loyalty there. It doesn't have to do with the name on the door. It has to do with the people inside the doors
Yeah.
that really make up a company. And he wants to do well for
Mm,
especially his mentor within the law firm. He really wants to do well
right.
for him. There's
Right.
another mentor he has, not a work mentor, but a personal mentor. Colonel Chuck is his name, and he's interviewed throughout the story. Impacted Ryan's early life as well as currently in the story. And he he wants to do well for him. He wants to be seen. He looks for that affirmation from his mentors. And in turn, they do the same with him because I've
Mm-hmm.
always felt like if you're rowing the boat the same way and within a company, you're rowing the boat the same way and I'm going to take care of you and I know you're going to take care of me.
Right.
Doesn't matter what the name of the company is because
Yeah.
you could all switch companies and you still have that same loyalty.
Right. And that seems to be a human characteristic that can be strong and not strong in others, but it sounds like a very interesting theme in your book. Are there some other themes in Recoil of Justice that you hope really resonate or impact people's minds?
So with Ryan, he got outside of his comfort zone and and I keep using that term, but that's the
Yeah.
best way I could think to describe it. He didn't feel like he felt like he certainly had a choice, but he was so moved by the scenario, he felt like this is something he needed to do, and there's only one way to
Mm.
do it, and that's to start doing it. Kind of like with my writing, I just started it, and that could go from any walk of life, whether someone is unhealthy and they want to get in shape,
Yeah.
or they're having financial struggles and they want to get in better financial shape. You've got to start the process and you got to stick to it. And I hope that in this fictional way
Yes.
that they see Ryan and taking him from a normal person to what he turns into by the end of the book and
Mm.
how that's fulfilled his life. Hopefully they can do the same thing with whatever evil,
Yeah.
hold up air quotes, evil they're facing out there or whatever speed bump they're facing out there
Yeah.
that they know I need to get here,
Mm-hmm.
giving them the motivation to actually do it and
Right.
just one foot in front of the other.
Oh, that's great. So how can people get in touch with you and find out more about the book as well?
Yeah, it's my website. They can follow me on my website. And for updates, it's bradeldernovels.com. They can follow me on
Okay.
Facebook at Brad Elder Novels or Instagram.
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty bad at Instagram, so don't think you're going to see a real impressive Instagram page there. But brad.elder.novels is my
Nice.
Instagram page. We should be publishing. I'm not sure when this podcast will air,
Yeah.
but we should be. Just got my final copy last week. We should be publishing
Nice.
this week.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, and it'll be available anywhere you buy books online, whether it be Amazon or Barnes and Noble or wherever you buy books online.
Oh, that's exciting. I'm looking forward to getting a copy and reading it. Incidentally, this episode will is scheduled to come out on June the 2nd. So
Okay,
that
so
could
if it's not published by then, I'm gonna be pulling all my hair out. Next time I'm on, I'll be completely bald. So,
well,
yeah, but
that's good.
either way, they can go to my website
Ni-
and sign up for updates and get a
Oh,
sneak
good.
peek of the prologue,
Nice.
and keep up to date, see the trailer, and then and stay up to date with my latest novel. That'll hopefully be done at the end of this year.
That's good. Now, so speaking of mentors, you mentioned that the protagonist in your book has a couple of mentors.
Yes.
In my research, I discovered that you're kind of a self-appointed authority on the Brady Bunch. And
The world's a self-appointed world's foremost authority on the
okay,
Brady Bunch.
gotcha. Good. It's good to have those distinctions. Ladies and gentlemen, you know when you're talking to a lawyer and he corrects the specificity of a statement, which is great. We
I don't
love
want to
that.
get painted into a corner here, you know.
Yeah, that's right. So, how does that fandom intersect with your writing?
The fandom, that was when I put that, it was kind of meant to be show my personality a little bit, I
Gotcha.
guess. And I don't take myself too seriously. I
Hmm.
don't think there's any reason to take myself too seriously. I've had a blessed life. In many people's eyes, I would say I've had a very successful life. But the second you start taking yourself too seriously, how the mighty fall, and
Yes.
no matter how successful you think you are, there's others out there that they would look at you and you would be highly unsuccessful,
Right.
so there's
Yeah.
like they say, well, I'm rich compared to a lot of people, but I'm poor compared to a lot of people too. And I think
Mm.
anybody can say that. So I hope that anyone who I'm lucky enough to have them read my book, I hope they can see my personality coming through.
Right.
I'm not I'll have little asides that I'll say that make fun of myself, make fun of the character a little
Right.
bit. And in my author's notes and preface and things like that, I do poke a little fun at myself, and that's to remind me that, hey, I'm lucky to be here on Earth. I won the lottery when I was born in the United States. I won the lottery when God created me to
Hmm.
as the His greatest creation, of a living creation, and
Yeah.
as a human being. So I try to keep that in perspective and know that no matter what issues I'm having out there, look around. We won the lottery being born here, and I say United States, North
Yes.
America, can
Of course.
in any of the leading countries in the world.
Hmm.
You were absolutely blessed that we know where our next meal is coming from.
Right.
We're sleeping in a home normally. We are
Yep.
all anyone listening to this has the ability. They obviously have done something right in their life because they have a device that they can afford
Hmm.
listen to your podcast. They have
That's right.
internet connection, so they're paying for something. So you're in the upper crust as far as
Yeah.
luck and success, and they sometimes go hand in
Hmm.
hand in the world. So
Yeah.
I try not to take myself too seriously, and that's kind of the Brady Bunch reference in there
Yes.
was kind of a way just to let people know my personality and to remind me that at
Hmm.
the end of the day, I'm still a 11-year-old kid and they're waiting for Greg and Marsha to come home.
Yes. Right.
I try to keep that into perspective.
No, that's good. Well, and thinking of those 6 days of creation that you alluded to, and God really saving the best for last. Some people might feel like they're in their fifth or sixth day of their life of creation, and I introduced you as creator Brad Elder because we all have this capacity to create and build something. And as we're wrapping up the show, is there something that maybe you could encourage some people with of bumps in the road, or they feel like it's too late to start something new?
Yeah, I'm 54 years old, and this is my first creative work for anybody else's enjoyment. I don't have a creative writing degree. I've written emails and social media posts,
Yep.
and that's pretty much what I've written. I'm way late in the game to be starting a new
Yeah.
creative career. right?
Right.
But then again, I look at it and go, well, I'm thinking about 30 years ago. It didn't seem like that long ago.
Yes.
Fast forward 30 years, so maybe I'm not too late in the game. So what if
Yeah.
if this is the only book I ever write?
Mm-hmm.
So what if it only lasts 5 years or 10 years?
Right.
What if it lasts 20 or 25 years? So I don't think it's ever too late to start a new passion. Now, I
Yeah.
also have a passion to play professional sports. It's probably too late.
Yeah.
So there's certain things that,
Gotta.
that are, that
Yes.
I always hear you could do anything you set your mind to. Well, that's
Yes. We
probably
got to
not true.
pick our
I'm never going to
battles.
be a professional basketball player or a football player
Mm-hmm.
or, but within the realm of reality, just start the process.
Yes.
Like I said that earlier about getting better financial health.
Mm-hmm.
Start the process. Don't order that. Don't order DoorDash this time.
Yeah.
Go to the store and buy something. Don't, don't eat that extra, whatever it is you shouldn't be eating. Go out and take a walk. I mean, just little bitty things like that. You got to
Yeah.
start it.
That's
And
right.
if you don't start it, you're never, ever, ever going to complete it.
That's right.
So it sounds simple, but it's the only part of the process I
Mm-hmm.
guarantee is necessary is starting it.
Yes. And to our viewers, in line with what Brad is just talking about, go back and look for the Dennis Hansen conversation that I had. There's some helps in there that'll actually, you've taken steps maybe 2 through 5, okay, and now you're looking at step 6 and you're like, oh man, that's looks kind of like a chasm. I guess you got to build a bridge. Well, if you look for that Dennis Hansen one, you'll find out about bridge building. There you
I'll
go.
look for that myself. Dennis
Yeah.
Hansen. Okay. Yeah.
Dennis Hansen. That it actually came out today, May 12th. So have a look for that, ladies and gentlemen. So, Brad, I do want to ask you what's next on your creative horizon. I think you mentioned just in passing a second book.
Yes. Yes. I'm about 35,000 words into it right now, which for those who don't know, Recoil of Justice is 77,000 words. It's a little
Okay.
short, probably.
Okay.
It's on the shorter end of books in this genre. So I'd say I'm
Hmm.
a little more than I'm probably 40% of the way through
Gotcha.
the next novel. It's been a lot of fun to write.
I
It
bet.
takes off from about a year after Recall ends, and there's a little bit of a continuing saga. So it'll draw some of the plot points out of
Right.
Recoil of Justice and see them through into, and it's called
Interesting.
Core of Truth.
Wow.
And so again, it's been fun to write. It's been fun to make up new characters. It's been fun to revisit some of the same characters as well, and really take Ryan's life and develop his character further and develop his life further.
Wow.
And again, sometimes I didn't realize how his character was going to, where
Hmm.
it's going to go and what kind of person he's going to turn into.
Right.
But so far, it's felt extremely natural for where his
Oh,
character is
good.
going.
Oh, that's exciting. That's exciting. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. What a conversation. I'd like to remind our listeners that Brad does have a great website and he's got some interesting things you want to take a look at, the trailer for the book for one. And so you can access that at
No,
www.bradeldersnovels.com.
Brad Elder novels.
Oh, yeah,
No
that's
S
it.
in Elder yet. Brad
Good.
Elder novels.
bradeldernovels.com. So, Brad, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your insights with us.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. That was good. And of course, thank you to our viewers. This was a great conversation, finding out about another a book to get. And we do appreciate you as the listener joining in on this conversation. If you haven't already, please take a moment to share this with 3 of your friends. I'm sure you got a name or two rolling around in your head, somebody that really likes to read fiction. It would be great for you to pass this along. And of course, we do appreciate those likes and subscribes. Shares, of course, go without saying. One other thing, if you can give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast player, we would appreciate that. And I do need to thank those people that have financially helped out a little bit here and there on buymeacoffee.com/5am podcast. We do appreciate all levels of support and your participation in what we're building here at 5am podcast. Thanks again for joining us today. And until next time, we hope you seize your day and make sure you enjoy those sunrises and sunsets. I'm Michael Clausen.